Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks, where every word matters. After countless appeals from Ukraine's officials to let the war-torn country use Western long-range weapons against military targets inside Russia, the US has finally given a green light for the ATACMS to be used in such a manner. But isn't it too late for such a decision, and can it turn the tides of war as Ukraine struggles to stall the Russian progress in the east? Well, to talk about it, we're joined by Rostyslav Khotin, senior editor for the Ukrainian Service of Radio for Europe, Radio Liberty. Good evening.
Hello.
So, what do you make of Joe Biden's decision to let Ukraine attack Russian military objects with American long-range missiles?
It's a breakthrough, to be honest, because Ukraine has been pressing the Americans for quite a long time to do so. And of course, better late than never. But this decision is long overdue. It should have happened maybe a year ago or even 2 years ago, when in the autumn of 2022, Russia started bombarding Ukrainian energy sector and also civilian population massively, the apartment blocks in different Ukrainian
cities. So what
made
Joe Biden to make this decision?
Long overdue.
Yes. So what made? Yeah. So what was the motivation?
Potentially it's a turning point. In some cases it's a turning point, but it also will be interesting to watch whether the Americans will be followed by Brits and French. Apparently they are followed by Brits and French in allowing Ukraine to strike Russian military targets on the territory of Russian Federation with Scalp missiles, French-made Scalp missiles, and British Storm Shadows.
Mm-hmm. But why now? As you said, it is long overdue, and we know that the administration in the US is about to change. So why now?
First of all, apparently there is a political reason here. Internal American politics is in play here because his hands were tied. He couldn't give this go-ahead before because Russia and Putin drew this kind of red line. If you give Ukrainians permission to strike with Western weapons deep into Russian territory, it will be like the direct collision between Russia and NATO. So it was sort of Kremlin's red line. First reason. But now Joe Biden is to leave office in 2 months. He is kind of free man, more or less. His hands are not tied. Second reason is because the appearance of North Korean soldiers in Kursk region of Russian Federation and on the territory of Russia near Ukrainian border. Tens and thousands of North Korean troops have been sent by North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un to Russia to fight against Ukraine in Kursk region. So the Americans thought that it's a good reason to help Ukrainians to boost their morale and allow Ukrainians to hold position in the Russian Federation in Kursk region of Russia. And third, I think also just last weekend was very horrible in terms of Russian strike against Ukrainian cities. There was one of the biggest strikes of Russian missiles and drones against Ukraine. It was hundreds and hundreds of missiles and drones launched against Ukraine, and also later followed by strikes against city of Sumy in Ukrainian northwest with a lot of civilian death and wounded people. And also today Odessa, it gives Americans moral permission to help Ukrainians in any way they can, so that Ukraine will be able to strike deep into Russian territory. With ATACMS, for instance, their long-range missiles, which can strike more than 300 kilometers. But apparently now the Ukrainian strikes will be limited only with Kursk region of Russian Federation, not other places. But anyway, it's also important because Ukraine has to hold position in Kursk region, keep it as a potential trump card for possible territorial exchange later with Russia.
Right, but what are these missiles exactly capable of?
They have a range of ATACMS. They have range of 306 kilometers to be precise. It also will depend on how many missiles will be supplied. Ukraine has ATACMS, but not enough missiles to complement them. Apparently, in America, the stockpiles of ATACMS missiles for ATACMS is counted like maybe up to 3,000 missiles. How many of them will be delivered to Ukraine? We don't know. But Ukrainians want more, of course, than just few dozens, just few dozens. Ukrainians need just much more. And also, Ukrainians will be able to strike Russian airfields on the territory of Russian Federation, but other military objects as well, like military bases, logistical lines, military headquarters, also, of course, oil depots, which are kind of fueling the Russian war machine, and other objects on the Russian territory, but limiting itself to strike against objects which are connected, targets which are connected to Russian military machine, not civilian infrastructure.
I understand, but is it possible that Russians will simply down all its missiles fired against them? Well, we know, on the other hand, that Ukraine has had huge problems with certain Russian missiles attacking its cities. Therefore, I'm asking you: do Russians have defenses capable of intercepting such missiles?
Of course, Ukraine has capacities to intercept Russian missiles. Russia has capacities to intercept Ukrainian missiles or Western-made missiles in Ukrainian possession. That's no problem. But if Ukraine will be able to strike not with just one or two missiles, but with dozens and dozens, everything will be dependent on how many missiles will America supply to Ukraine, for ATACMS and other systems. But now, although Russia anticipated the possible permission from the White House to strike military targets on Russian soil, they already kind of withdraw back deeper into Russian territory some military, like military planes, air jets, and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, still the significant number of Russian air jets and other military equipment is located near Ukrainian border within 300 kilometers of the strike range of ATACMS missile systems.
So could it be a game changer? Because that would explain Russia's angry reaction. As you mentioned in the very beginning, the Kremlin has already stated that such attacks would mean direct war between Russia and the US. But is there really a risk? Is there really such a risk that it will turn into a direct US-Russian conflict? And again, can it still be a game changer that late in the game?
Yeah, Russia drew several red lines, so-called red lines, and all of them were crossed by Ukraine and Western partners of Ukraine. And this red line for permission to strike deep into Russian territory was also one of red lines, which now will be crossed. But I don't expect any kind of significant escalation or direct collision between Russia and NATO. But it's a game changer in a way. But it will depend on how long this permission will last, because Joe Biden will leave White House in 2 months. The inauguration of Donald Trump is on the 20th of January. Will he be supportive of this decision? We don't know. There are voices in his team, in his staff, among his staff, closest advisors, that it was like a bad decision for President Biden to allow these strikes. We will see whether Donald Trump, as the future president of the United States, will honor this decision. But Ukraine at least has 2 months to strike Russian territory. And also we expect that Ukraine might strike within several days, but there are no other announcements. President Zelensky said, kind of, let's missiles speak for themselves. That was his reaction. Let's keep quiet. Let's do things fast.
We'll try to listen to the missiles then. But Ukraine will likely be also part of the joint declaration coming from the G20 summit. And what can we expect from that? And how should we interpret it? And exactly in light of Donald Trump's presidency, upcoming presidency.
Ukraine tries very, very much, doing at most to project its influence and partnerships within global South, within G20 members of G20 countries club. But there is Ukraine is unhappy when there is a competition of peace plans. There is Brazilian-Chinese peace plan. Now President Erdogan presented his Turkish peace plan for Ukraine. There are competition of peace plans, and not all of them are suitable for Ukraine, because Ukraine wants a restoration of territorial integrity. Ukraine wants Russian troops to leave its territory. But Brazilian and Chinese plan foresees the freezing of the conflict. President Erdogan of Turkey also wants to freeze this conflict and create some kind of demilitarized zone, and with a taboo for NATO membership for Ukraine for 10 years, and so on and so forth. These conditions, these peace plans of China and Brazil and Turkey are not acceptable for Ukraine. But Ukraine wants to be mentioned in the declaration of G20, and probably will be mentioned probably in a way peace and peace talks, there will be this push for peace. But the thing is that Ukraine wants peace, but Ukraine wants lasting peace and fair peace, just peace, not just any peace, losing territory and losing its people to Russia.
Rostyslav Khotin, senior editor for the Ukrainian Service of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, was our guest this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for much more here on TVP World.